Hello team, welcome back to my JCE English language part 4 of transformations. This is the last video on transformations, and in this video we're going to look at conditional clauses, which is my favorite because it is very much simple. Though a lot of students find it difficult to understand, but in this presentation, in this video, I'm going to make it easier for you. If you just follow me closely, you have good marks on this during your exams. So follow me closely in my presentation. Remember, this video is brought to you by the Lions Education, and this presentation was prepared by Mr. Blue Light, your English tutor. So in your GCE examination, sentence transformation structure section often test conditional clauses. So the most frequent transformation requires switching between sentences starting with what, if, and sentences starting with what, unless, without changing what the meaning. Remember, in grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, you were taught by your teachers to say, in clauses, sentences, you do not change the meaning. You maintain the meaning of the sentence, even when you are rewriting that sentence. Let us stick to that. Okay, so now here is the core strategy that you can use in your exam, or to master the whole entire clause, the whole entire conditional clause topic under transformations. This is the simple core strategy you need to master. So you just need to think of it when you are dealing with clauses. Think of unless of this formula. Pardon? So think of this formula. Just use this formula when you're dealing with clauses, which is unless is equal to if plus what? Not. Because the word unless already contains a negative meaning within what? Within it. So you must remove or add the word not elsewhere in the sentence to balance the scale and keep the meaning identical. You must balance here. You need to balance and keep the meaning identical of that sentence. So what are you balancing up? You are balancing up two parts of that single sentences, because remember, clauses, we're dealing with one sentence separated by a comma, which means there will be two parts of that sentence rather. Okay, let us now shed more light on our core strategy so that we are able to understand it. So here are the 3-step transformation rule that I prepared for you in order for us to understand what our core strategy is talking about. The first step is identify the condition. What do we mean by identifying the condition? Basically, what you're doing here, you are finding the action part of the sentence that depends on if. Once you do that, notice if it has a positive meaning or a negative meaning. Okay. After finding an action part of the sentence that depends on if, you need to notice if it has a positive meaning or a negative meaning. Take note of that point. That is the first step. After you've done that, the second step says that swap if for what? Unless. Remember, we're dealing with unless versus what? If. So here, if your sentence is starting with if, you need to swap it with what? Unless in your writing, when you are writing that clause. If the original sentence is starting with if, your transformation is supposed to start with unless. So start your new sentence with unless, because unless acts like a negative word. Look at the second half of your sentence after you've started your new sentence with unless. You've written the first part of the sentence. Now where there's a comma, you pause there. Then we move on to step 3, which says balance the not. After you've paused where there's a comma in that sentence, now change the meaning part of the sentence to preserve the what? The original meaning. Meaning, if the original result was positive, here you are going to make it what? Negative. And if the original result was negative, here you are making it to be what? Positive. Just like that. You are playing with weights here. I told you to say it's very much simple. Now let us look at what we are talking about now. So here is the quick balance sheet for us to be able to understand it and make it easier for us not to labor much. So if structure, now let us look at this sentence clause. If you do not study, you will fail. If you do not study, you will fail. Now let us rewrite this sentence using what? Unless. Remember, we are rewriting, we need to replace this with unless. We need to replace where there's if to be starting with what? Unless. So we'll start unless you. Now pause a bit here. Remember, we say that you need to identify if the original meaning of the sentence, if it is either negative or positive. If it is positive, you change it to what? Negative. And if it is negative, you change it to what? Positive. Let us apply that here. So we'll start like unless you study, because here it's a negative. So we do not write this negative, because this negative falls under what? Unless already. So we'll be like unless you study. Remember again, do not is a positive part of this sentence. So this one will change to what? This part is already in a negative form. So the transformation of this will be in positive. Remember that? What we said. So if you, unless you study, comma, you will fail. Simple as that. So just identify the positive part or negative part of that sentence and change it in your transformation. So this sentence will be unless you study, you will fail. Full stop. We've done that. We have applied all our steps and our strategy here. Let us look at the second example. The second example says if you study hard, you will pass. Now here, if you notice, firstly let us look at the negative or positive part of this sentence. We are having here a positive part, which is the other part, which is in the other part of the sentence after the comma. So when you see the, if you notice to say the first part there is no negative, just know that the negative will be to the other part of the sentence. Now if there's no other, the other part there's no negative, just know that that sentence it is having a positive part meaning. So this sentence, it has got a positive part meaning. If you study hard, you will pass. So if you notice, it's all positive. So if we are writing this, supposed to change now the part where there is positive to be what? Negative. So it will be like unless you study hard, you will not pass. That's how it's going to be. Unless you study hard, you will not pass. Remember, we need to balance up. So since you say we are starting with unless here, the other part is not supposed to be like that, because it is having a what? A positive part. So that positive part is supposed to be changed to what? A negative part. This is what we did here. Unless you study hard, okay, comma, you will pass. If we write that one, it will be wrong. So we need to balance up this side and this side. So this side, it was positive. So it was positive in the original sentence, but when your transformation is supposed to be what? Negative. Remember, we are balancing up the sheet here. So unless you study hard, you will not pass. That will be the correct answer. The next example says if it does not rain, comma, we will play. Now let us look at this example. We'll start with unless as usual. So unless it, here we're having a negative part of the sentence. So unless this does not supposed to be in a positive part because it is in a negative. Now it will be in a positive part since the original sentence it is in a negative. Now our rewrite is supposed to be in a positive part, so it will be like, unless it rains. We remove this one. Unless it what rains, we will play. Simple as that. Well, you are applying and we are applying the rules and the same strategy. The last example, it's here. So it is saying, if it rains, we will stay inside. You can pause the video and try this out on your own and see if you're able to understand using the strategy and those steps that I showed you. So let us do it together. If it rains, we will stay inside. Now we start with what? Unless. So this sentence, let us identify the positive part or a negative part. So here it is having will stay. Will stay, it is a positive part of the positive part in this sentence, and it is to the other what? To the other part of the sentence after the comma. So this one's supposed to be changed in what? To be negative. So it will be, unless it rains, we introduce what? Not stay inside. So what you're basically doing here, you're just introducing what? Not. If the part is in a negative, is in a positive way, you just introduce not so that it becomes what? It becomes negative. Okay, now here are the actual examples. So example 1, removing not from the condition. So if the original sentence is saying, if you do not run fast, comma, you will miss the bus. Now rewrite this sentence using those steps and that strategy that I showed you. So it will be like, unless, first remember we need to change this do not, because do not, it is it shows that this sentence it is having this part of what? A negative. So this, if it is in a negative, we need to change it to what? To be positive. So it will be, unless you run fast. We remove do and not. So unless you run fast, and then after comma you maintain everything, you will miss what? The bus. Simple as that. Example 2 here, if Princess works hard, she will clear the exam. Now let us apply the same principle, the same rule, and the same strategy, the same steps. The rewrite for this sentence will be like, unless, remember if become unless, Princess. Now first, before we continue with our answer, let us identify which part has got negative or positive meaning. So here, Princess works hard, okay, it's positive. The only negative part is this one, so this one is okay. The first part is okay. What about the second part? The second part is saying she will clear the exam. So we're having this problem, which is the second part is having what? A positive part in it. So this positive part, we're supposed to introduce what? A word not, so that it becomes balanced. This part and this part to be balanced both. Okay, so the sentence will be, unless Princess works hard, she will not clear the exam. This is how you basically write clauses. Simple as that. So here are the exam tips that I'm going to give you. They're just 2 as usual. So the first tip is the double negative trap. Never write unless you do not in your answer. So never write unless you do not in your answer. Remember I said unless it is already a negative, it carries a negative part in it. So do not double negative in your sentence. When you say unless you do not, you are doubling the negative there, so which is a grammatical error. you're supposed to avoid. Don't do that during an exam unless carries a negative part in it. So don't use do not again in your sentence, or don't include do not when you've used unless. Wherever you go in your speech, in your daily lives, do not do that. So let us look at this other part. So this makes a double negative statement which is grammatically wrong and loses marks immediately. Don't do that. Avoid that for you to be able to gain marks. So the second tip is check tense agreement. Ensure your verbs keep the correct tense form. Remember in our previous tutorial video we were discussing about inversions, and we said when you in your inversions, when you introduce does, the verb there, the main verb there, it will change to what? To its original what? To its original form. So this is the example. Changing does not work. So the verb here, it is work. If your original sentence was having works, once you've introduced does, just remember that this one will automatically change to its original form to be work. Just work. Do not say works. Avoid that when removing what? The negative word. This is the end of our tutorial video. If you happen to have any question, you can just come into my inbox and ask. I'll be able to help you where you are behind. See you